Chapter 1, August 2006. They're still tailgating us, I murmured, squinting into the lone pair of headlights shining through the back windshield. The sequins on my halter top caught on the lap belt, snicking like ticker tape as I shifted in the passenger seat. Maybe it's the Green River Killer, Laura said evenly, keeping her eyes on the road. I snorted, but kept watching as the headlights crept closer. They caught the Green River Killer. I thought you read that blog I sent. It was 20 pages long. Anyway, why do I need a crime blog when I have Olivia Heath in my car? She asked. As she slowed down to take the next hairpin turn, the watery yellow headlights behind us turned into a pale orange where they mingled with our brake lights. I ignored her and kept staring at the headlights that had been tailgating us relentlessly for miles on the dark rural highway. Everything is fine, I chided myself. There were no passing signs posted every other switchback on the narrow road. Our ancient Volvo was going 10 miles under the speed limit as we chugged uphill. Of course they were tailgating us. When I blinked, 2 mirror image red spots flashed behind my eyelids. It was impossible to see the drivers, and I was getting carsick. I glared into the headlights a little longer and committed the license plate to memory. 2CGR275. Live? Earth to live. They're probably late to the bonfire, same as us. Laura was the Scully to my Mulder. Ever the optimist, ever reasonable. Ever the one who talked me down from my imaginary ledges. But the question always tapped at the back of my mind. What if there really was a ledge? The license plate does say GR, I grumbled, but turned around, smoothing down my wonky sequins and drawing in a slow breath to calm my sloshing stomach. GR, Laura prodded, glancing at me as we came out of the curve. Ugh, Green River, I clarified, with an exaggerated sigh. Or Gary Ridgway, same guy. Go easy on the turns. I rested one hand out of the uneven window ledge, so the cool night air hit my face in a slap that smelled like sage. The Volvo's passenger side window had collapsed inside the doorframe a few weeks earlier. Laura's sister, Tish, had talked about taping up a sheet of plastic inside the hole, but since the car didn't have air conditioning, the window just stayed open. I rubbed out a smattering of goosebumps on my bare arms. I should have brought a jacket. The hills were at least 20 degrees cooler than the city, but I'd been too rushed and too sweaty after work to care. The bonfire at the reservoir had started more than an hour ago, and as far as I could tell, we were the only car on the road, aside from the tailgaters. Laura had waited until my shift ended at the pie hole to make the tedious winding drive through the hills. The interior of the Volvo grew brighter as the headlights edged closer. Laura glanced in the rearview mirror. When I craned my neck to do the same, she sent me a warning glare. Stay facing forward. The only thing you need to worry about is not getting barf on Tish's car. She flicked the fuzzy dice hanging from the mirror. I can't believe she bailed on us again tonight. I'm fine, I insisted, even as my stomach lurched dangerously. I inhaled slowly through my nose to stave off the nausea. But, breathe, Liv, she soothed. They just want to pass us. I'll find somewhere to pull over. There's nowhere to pull over, I mumbled, wishing I'd gone to the library with Tish instead of putting myself out there tonight. And this is definitely a no passing zone. The isolated 2-lane rural highway made me nervous, even in the daytime. Look, right there, Laura signaled, and angled the Volvo toward a shallow gravel pullout carved into the hillside to our right. The headlights stayed behind us, moving toward the same shoulder at a crawl. Why aren't they passing? I demanded, even while I scolded myself for overreacting. I didn't trust my anxious brain to correctly identify a real threat. It had steered me wrong way too many times. As soon as the words left my lips, a vehicle with one headlight out, only the second car we'd seen since leaving the city limits, whipped into view. It passed us from behind, going way too fast and nearly clipping our driver's side mirror of the Volvo. Once its brake lights disappeared around the next bend, the tailgaters eased back onto the road and zipped past us as well. Within a few seconds, the hills were dark and quiet again, except for the Volvo's idling mutter. "See? They were just letting that idiot pass," Laura insisted triumphantly, flashing me a grin before hitting the gas and easing back onto the road. "No serial killers." When I didn't respond, her eyes flicked toward me. "Have you heard anything from Tish?" Shaking off the useless adrenaline rush, I sighed, reached down the front of my high-waisted denim cutoffs to open the slim traveler's pouch where I'd tucked my cell phone. Laura snickered at the sound of the zipper. I ignored her and flipped open the phone. "You know she hasn't texted. You just wanted to see me open the magic fanny pack." I snapped the elastic of the traveler's pouch, tucked just behind the top button of my shorts, for emphasis. "My pockets can hold half a saltine, at most. Where the hell am I supposed to put my phone when I go out?" "And your rape whistle, and your pepper spray," Laura chirped. I rolled my eyes and laughed. "You really should read the blog." My phone screen showed one service bar. I didn't have any new messages, but I took the opportunity to text Tish the car's license plate, 2CGR275, just in case. She wouldn't see it until she got home from the library later tonight, and even then, she wouldn't think anything of the text, unless the apartment was still empty in the morning. Tish, like Laura, had come to expect the occasional license plate number or blurry photo of some rando at the gas station who looked like a police sketch I'd seen on Twitter. Laura shifted in the driver's seat to face me. "You know, we can turn around if you want," she offered gently, the bright white of her teeth slowly disappearing with her smile. "If you're not feeling up for the bonfire..." "I'm good," I insisted more gruffly than I intended, avoiding her eyes. I could deal with jokes about my red alert text and travel pouch and rape whistle, but at any hint of sympathy for the underbelly of my social anxiety, not so much. I zipped my cell phone back into the slim travel pouch, refusing to imagine the last bar of cell service flickering out as we drove deeper into the hills. Then I reached over and turned the volume knob on the ancient boombox propped between us, where the glove box in the old Volvo used to live. It was an indestructible monstrosity, like the Volvo itself. I absolutely loved it. I did not wear scratchy sequins to turn around and go home, I sang off-key over Britney Spears. Laura had spent hours making this party mix, first downloading the songs, then burning them onto a CD, then recording the CD onto a tape that would play in the ridiculous boombox. Laura's smile brightened. "Atta girl." Chapter 2. The music pumping through the old boombox lasted until we approached the final turnoff onto the long dirt road that led to the reservoir. The tape turned over with a loud click, right as the Volvo clunked over a shallow pothole. When Brittany's voice re-emerged, it was slow and distorted, like the song had been dunked in syrup. "Britt? Stay with us," Laura coaxed as the song subsided to a tiny whine. The boombox made a sudden, harsh buzzing noise, coughed out a burst of static, then went completely silent. "I guess not," she laughed and wiggled the volume knob one more time. I smiled and rested my arm on the edge of the open window, dipping my hand down, then up, then down in the breeze. "The bonfire will be fun," I reassured myself. "You always have fun once you get there. Just stay with Laura." The nervous fizz deep in my stomach remained wary. I leaned out the open window a little and followed the smoky trail of the Milky Way, until it disappeared behind the hillside looming to our right. The sounds of night creatures worrying among themselves took center stage in the quiet night as the Volvo slowly chugged up the incline. A muted scratching coming from the dash suddenly broke through the geriatric drone of the engine. The seatbelt caught as I shifted in my seat, leaving a drooping curl of fabric across my chest. There it was again, a soft skittering. Do you hear that? I swear there's something inside the dash. Laura let go of the wheel with one hand to rap on the plastic of the dash. The sound stopped. I think there might be something living in that hole, gnawing on the wires, she said, then shrugged as if she just made a comment about the weather. Sometimes I hear that same scurrying sound while I drive. Tish said she does too. It's probably a mouse. I looked at her in disbelief. If I see a damn mouse come out of your dashboard, I am hurling myself out of the Volvo. I shuddered. I still can't believe Tish spent money on this thing. It's amazing that it runs. Laura shrugged again, unfazed. She got it cheap from Tony's friend. It was like $500. Then she added, the guy actually said he'd give it to her for $200 if she threw in a blowjob. Okay, pull the car over, I mimed, gagging and grabbed the door handle. Olivia! Laura shrieked and hit the brakes. I laughed. I'm kidding. Mostly. He actually said that to Tish? She rolled her eyes dramatically. Yep. While Tish and Tony were still together? Uh-huh. Gross. I sat forward in my seat, studying the slapping hills looming in the distance. If I remembered right, we were about 20 miles away from the reservoir once we turned onto this dirt road. How is Tish doing anyway? I asked after a minute. If I didn't see her cereal bowl in the sink, I wouldn't even know she'd been sleeping at the apartment lately. Laura sighed. She's okay, I think. I've hardly seen her lately either. Ever since the breakup, she's been weird. I nodded, still half listening for the mouse scurrying around in the dash. But Tish's drama was a welcome distraction. Tish and I were friends, but we'd never been especially close. Not like me and Laura, who had been inseparable since the 7th grade. I thought she was definitely coming tonight, I pressed. She even RSVP'd on Facebook. Why did she stay home? Laura slowed the car down to skirt another pothole in the dirt road. No idea. She texted a few minutes before you got home from work, saying she was busy at the library late. She shrugged again. I think she just doesn't want to risk running into Tony at the bonfire. I nodded slowly. Do you think he'll be there? It's not really a Delta vibe. A Delta vibe? Laura giggled. You mean like an Axe body spray commercial? I burst out laughing. Pretty much. Laura raised her eyebrow and smiled. Are you hoping Tony will be there? Heat rose in my cheeks. No way. Tish was engaged to him, dummy. I'd seen plenty of photos of Tish's boyfriend, briefly fiancé, on Facebook. But I only really met him a couple of times. Once across the room at a party, and once on the apartment couch in passing. We didn't actually know each other. Not really. I pictured the smiling, sun-kissed boy I'd seen on Tish's Facebook profile, wearing a Band of Horses t-shirt. He was incredibly good-looking. Laura sighed and brushed her bangs away from her face. It's true. He's ruined for all of us now. I'm surprised Tish... I trailed off, not totally sure how to finish that sentence. Both Laura and I had been surprised when Tish started dating Tony last year. He's what my dad would call a big man on campus. Handsome, charming, and one of the chosen ones who had been accepted into the Delta fraternity freshman year. As much as I loved Tish, it was impossible to deny that she was Tony's polar opposite. Quiet, shy, and maybe a little boring if I was being mean. Basically, she was like me. Laura had always been designated social butterfly of our little cadre. Laura giggled. Hey, at least you've got Ziggy. I snickered, but my stomach tightened at the mention of his name. Stop it, we aren't discussing him tonight. Ziggy, which I now knew was short for 𝚱𝚘𝚎𝚘𝚑, was the extremely awkward humanities TA who stared at me during class. Laura and I had found his Facebook profile one night and learned, to our horror and delight, that he was a member of the Pen and Quill Society, a LARPing group on campus. Ziggy was a mage, which Laura and I had to Google. It meant he was some kind of magician. Last week, in an effort to put myself out there, I made the horrifying mistake of accepting a date with a cute guy I'd met on MySpace. His profile picture bore almost zero resemblance to the tall, painfully quiet, acne-covered senior who wrote things like "me likey" and "bomb diggity" on the margins of my papers. I didn't realize it was Ziggy until we met up for happy hour at Spacebar that night. Things went from bad to worse when I learned that he had recognized me from my profile photo. I had made an excuse about a family emergency and booked it out of the bar, vowing to delete my profile the second I got back to the apartment to lick my wounds. Did you hear back from your professor? Laura prodded. I nodded slowly. Laura had convinced me to email my humanities professor about what had happened, but I still felt weird about the whole thing. Yeah, I forgot to tell you. He wrote back yesterday with a long apology about how this happened earlier in the semester to someone else. Long story short, Ziggy's not the humanities TA anymore. Laura shot me an impressed look and took a turn in the road a little too fast. Nice job, killer. What a creep. I held my breath as our wheels edged towards the thin shoulder that petered off into the darkness beyond our headlights. I tugged on my seatbelt again, hoping it had been engineered to outlast the rest of the car, despite its obvious fatigue. I haven't been up the Coffee Creek in forever. How much farther is it to the reservoir? 𝚘𝚾𝙾𝙾 Creek? Laura corrected me sternly. I rolled my eyes. I hate that name. Do we have to call it that? There's no coffin, just muddy water and beer cans. Because it's fun, and because the freshman who went missing is buried there, she shrugged, then flashed me a wicked grin. I sighed. Her name is Ava Robles, and if they knew where she was buried, she wouldn't be missing, would she? If you had read that blog post, you'd know they never found her body. Incoming freshman Ava Robles had gone missing near Coffin Creek 3 years earlier, the same year Laura and I had started at University of Idaho. I hadn't known her, neither had Laura. We weren't on the guest list for that particular party. Ava had been one of the few freshmen who attended the exclusive sorority party that night, at the end of Rush Week. Her story had been firmly embedded in campus lore almost as soon as the news broke that she had gone missing. For weeks at the start of the semester, cops stalked sorority and frat houses to interview anyone who had attended the huge toga party. When rumors and a few bloggers started to spread that her body had been dumped in Coffin Creek, the detectives sent divers to troll the murky waters. They found absolutely nothing. From the blog I'd read, the police believed that the rumors might have been intentionally started as a way to throw off the investigation. It worked, and the rumors, as well as the unfortunate nickname, stuck like glue around campus ever since. The only things they'd ever found of Ava's were her purse and phone, tossed into the sage bush at the end of the reservoir. They trolled it too, with zero success. All anyone really knew was that Ava had been at that party 1 minute, and the next she hadn't. There were no traces of blood, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses who had noticed anything strange. Everyone assumed she was dead. There was even some speculation that maybe she'd been pulled into the hills by a cougar. It wasn't likely, but it wasn't impossible. Despite the university nearby, this part of Idaho was mostly wild. The hills went on for miles and miles in all directions with sportsmen's access. I shivered. Thinking about Ava Robles was not helping my state of mind. How much longer until we get there? I asked. Laura shrugged. We'll be there in 15 minutes, give or take. Is your stomach feeling better? All good, I insisted, not counting the anxious bubbles. But I'm freezing. I rubbed my arms, wishing again that I had brought my jacket. The last bonfire we'd attended, stoked by overeager freshmen, had burned so hot that somebody's bumper had melted by the end of the night. Me too, but this top looks like an old paper bag if I cover up my arms. She gestured to the high-neck cotton blouse that looked nothing like a paper bag. I never learn. See if you can get the heater to work. Tish swore it did. I turned my attention to the large knob next to the radio dial, cranking it all the way to the red side. It made a clicking noise, followed by a soft pop. That's a no. It might be time to take the Volvo to a farm. I patted the window frame. We love you, but you're falling apart. Giving up on the heater, I settled against the bucket seat, reaching up to touch my hair. I cut it from waist length to a trendy lob with bangs a few days earlier, and my head still felt weirdly untethered without the extra weight. I shifted slightly to study Laura's long hair in my peripheral vision. It hung down her back and was such a pale white blonde that it seemed to glow against the gray seat. The summer before 6th grade, we both tried highlighting our hair with a combination of sun-in and peroxide. Laura's hair had turned an ethereal white. My dark brown hair had turned sunny delight orange in splotches I hadn't eradicated until 8th grade. I made a face and asked, was it a mistake to cut my hair? She smiled and tapped on the brakes as a deer's eyes glowed white near the side of the road before it bounded into the night. Stop it right now. I keep telling you, it's gorgeous, and it makes your eyes look huge. She reached up to grab a hunk of her blonde hair. Mine feels like straw lately. How do you get yours so shiny? I flipped my short hair dramatically. Thanks. It's probably from the pie hole. All that oil in the air. It's the pizza-scented deep conditioner. Laura sighed loudly. Another reason I should have taken summer semester off to get a job. I can't get over the idea that physical education is an actual college requirement. Are we not adults now? How am I being forced into running? I wound my cold hands into the soft underside of the halter top, keeping my gaze on the shoulder of the road to watch for more pairs of ghostly eyes. I glanced at the Volvo's dash clock, out of habit, even though I knew it would read 3:03, no matter how long we drove. This far into the hills, it felt like we'd been swallowed up by the night itself. I didn't hear her response. As the dirt road crested a rise, we passed a skinny ATV trail, ducking into the hills. A dark, hulking shape sat angled in the weeds, like a black hole in the pale, dry grass. A truck. Everything is fine, I told myself firmly, channeling my inner Laura. The moment we drove past, the truck's high beams blinked on, blazing in our rearview mirror as it roared to life and pulled behind us.